The Shadow at the Edge of Sight. Chapter 1, A Long Day at Work. The clock struck 8 p.m., and Rose finally stepped out of her office building. The streets were quieter than usual, with only the occasional sound of a car passing by. She sighed deeply, her stomach rumbling after skipping lunch due to her packed schedule. "I need something to eat," she muttered to herself. As she walked down the street, she spotted a fast food stand glowing under the dim streetlights. The smell of freshly grilled burgers wafted through the air, making her decision easy. Rose bought a cheeseburger and decided to eat it on her way home. The cold air bit at her cheeks as she took her first bite. The warm, savory flavor melted away the stress of the day. But just as she began to enjoy her meal, she felt a strange sensation, like something was moving at the edge of her vision. Chapter 2, The First Glimpse. Rose paused mid-bite. From the corner of her eye, she thought she saw something, a faint, white shadow, almost translucent. She turned her head sharply, scanning the area, but the sidewalk was empty except for the flickering streetlights. "Must be my imagination," she said aloud, trying to dismiss the unease creeping into her chest. She resumed eating and quickened her pace. But then, there it was again. A flash of white, just at the edge of her sight. She turned her head once more, her heartbeat quickening. This time, she even called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" No answer. Only silence and the distant sound of a dog howling in the night. Chapter 3, A Faint Pursuit. The walk home suddenly felt much longer than usual. Rose's unease grew with every step. The flickering streetlights seemed dimmer, and the night felt colder. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed. Her grip on the cheeseburger tightened. Her eyes darted to the sides, trying to catch the white shadow that kept appearing in her peripheral vision. But every time she turned, there was nothing, just empty streets and shadows cast by the swaying trees. She tried to calm herself. "It's nothing, Rose. You're just tired," she whispered, her voice shaky. But the shadow persisted, always just out of reach, always there at the corner of her eye. Chapter 4, The Sound of the Night. As Rose hurried down the street, the night grew eerily quiet. The usual city sounds of distant chatter and car engines were replaced by the soft rustling of leaves and the haunting wail of a dog howling far away. Her steps echoed loudly against the pavement, each one accompanied by a faint, almost imperceptible second set of footsteps. She stopped and turned, looking behind her. Nothing. The unease in her chest turned into full-blown panic. She clutched her handbag tightly and began walking faster, then broke into a half-run. The cold air stung her lungs, and the cheeseburger in her hand now felt like a forgotten weight. Chapter 5, The Final Sprint. By the time Rose reached her street, she was nearly sprinting. Her legs ached, and her breath came in sharp gasps, but the shadow still lingered. Every flicker of light, every shifting shadow seemed to bring it closer. Her house loomed ahead, a welcome sight against the darkness. Rose fumbled with her keys, glancing over her shoulder as she unlocked the door. She burst inside, slamming the door shut and locking it behind her. The warmth of the house should have been comforting, but Rose's heart was still racing. She leaned against the door, trying to catch her breath. "Calm down," she told herself. "You're safe now. It's over." Chapter 6, The Reflection. Rose set her burger on the kitchen counter, too shaken to eat anymore. She made her way to the living room, her footsteps echoing softly on the wooden floor. As she passed the hallway mirror, something caught her eye. The white shadow. Her breath hitched. It wasn't behind her, it was right next to her. Slowly, she turned her head toward the mirror, her stomach twisting in fear. And then she saw it. A tiny piece of bread, clinging stubbornly to her eyelashes. Rose blinked, her mind taking a moment to process what she was seeing. She reached up and carefully plucked the bread crumb from her lashes. The shadow disappeared instantly. Chapter 7, The Realization. For a moment, Rose just stood there, holding the tiny crumb in her hand. Then, the absurdity of it all hit her. She laughed, a loud, uncontrollable laugh that echoed through the empty house. The hours of fear and panic melted away, as she realized she had been running from a piece of bread. "You've got to be kidding me," she said to herself, still laughing. "All of that, for this?" She collapsed onto the couch, clutching her stomach as the laughter turned into tears of relief. The once haunting shadow was nothing more than an innocent hitchhiker from her cheeseburger. Epilogue, a lesson in perspective. The next day, Rose recounted the story to her co-workers, who laughed so hard they cried. It became the office joke, and even Rose couldn't help but laugh every time she thought about it. But from that day on, she always checked her face after eating, just in case. Vocabulary summary. Peripheral, relating to the edge of your field of vision. Pungent, having a strong, sharp smell. Unease, a feeling of being uncomfortable or worried. Translucent, allowing light to pass through but not completely clear. Imperceptible, so slight or small that it's almost impossible to notice. Flickering, moving or shining unsteadily. Panic, a sudden feeling of fear or anxiety. Hitchhiker, something or someone that catches a ride, often unnoticed. Absurdity, the quality of being ridiculous or silly. Relief, the feeling of relaxation after something stressful. This humorous twist on a seemingly scary story helps readers enjoy an engaging narrative while learning practical vocabulary.